Anyways.
Somebody needs to take a shower.
What is up, everyone, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. If you don't know, we're Kara and Caleb.
I'm Kara.
And I'm Caleb. I love that we're doing we have the plan of doing maybe a
we
video
do it one
every
time
day.
And then we're doing it.
Yeah, we're going to do video every day.
Every
maybe
day?
2 weeks. Let's try to do it for 2 weeks.
Every
Push
single
out content
day.
for 2 weeks. We always have a great time when we're actually doing this.
We do.
But
we like talking, I think.
I know. I love hearing myself.
Yeah.
I'm joking. I'm joking. But today we want to talk to you about a topic, about a subject that I think both of us individually highly stress in our work and in our lives, but also together. It's just like something that we're actually so passionate about talking about. We're so passionate talking about it just because it's so incredibly necessary. And today we want to talk to you about how self-trust is your superpower.
Self-trust is your superpower.
Are you mocking me?
No.
My mama is Italian. Speak with my hands, but yes.
Self-trust is your superpower.
Self-trust is your superpower. And if you think about it, you can't find the relationship that you want without self-trust. You can't reach that level of success without self-trust. You can't access a higher financial status without self-trust. The doorway to the life that you want goes through self-trust.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think especially when you start to see that, you start to recognize that people who are in the relationships and having the success, they've really taken back this power around their self-trust. They've learned it. So we're going to talk about what is self-trust. We're going to define it. We're going to talk about why we have to relearn it, why we have to remember self-trust.
And then lastly, we are going to talk about the role of healing emotional trauma and how that relates to self-trust. And lastly, we're going to give you just simple ways that you can begin to practice self-trust in your life. So, first and foremost, what is self-trust?
What is self-trust? So there's a lot of definitions around it. One definition that I like is confidence in your own ability to navigate life. So really a sense of, I can do this. I've got this when it comes to life. That's one way to define it. I also think about self-trust as a tethering, like being tethered to your intuition and your internal world, to really have a strong sense of your intuitive voice within and learn how to lean on that and allow that to guide you. So there is this sense of deep self-knowing, self-awareness, self-acceptance that comes when we tether ourselves to ourselves. Yeah. So when we are operating in self-trust. I
agree. I'm actually reading psychcentral.com right now.
Wow.
Self-trust means that you can take care of your needs and safety. Right? You can trust yourself to survive situations, practice kindness, not perfection. And it's a relentless commitment to yourself on your journey.
Yeah, self-trust in some ways.
And I think it can mean different things for different people.
Absolutely. But in some ways, it's almost like this neutrality where you are choosing self at an equal place of choosing others. I think sometimes we overextend, like either we're super self-focused, but that comes from a place of lack, or we're super others-focused, and that comes from a place of like earning and needing. So I think of self-trust as almost this balance. Again, a tether. It's like this tethered beam to a higher power.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about the times, because I know there have been a lot of times in my life, or a long season of my life, where I didn't trust myself. I trusted my ability. I trusted my skill set. I trusted my talent, especially when I was like playing football. Yeah. Right. And this is a challenge, is that when we only can trust our skill sets or our talent, what happens when we meet our match? Right.
Skill sets take you so far.
Skill set takes you so far. So in college, I really trusted my skill set. Yeah. And I thrived in college football. But then when I got to the NFL, suddenly I met my match when it came to athleticism and my skill set and my talent, and I did not know how to trust myself in that season, right? And so there was no self-trust, there was no self-confidence.
And so then there's a sense of crumbling because the thing you place your identity in is crumbling, right? So self-trust really is, I think, like a confidence in self apart from ability. not that ability doesn't matter, but it's a confidence in self apart from how many times I'm rejected, how many times I fail, how many times I have to get back up again.
So why is self-trust something that we have to learn?
Relearn.
Relearn.
I like to say relearn or remember.
Yeah, it's a remembering.
It's a remembering, because I think we really are, we're born with an innate sense of self-trust, but then life circumstances and narratives we absorb and stories we tell ourselves, they kind of take that away. So I'll just speak for, there's a fly. There was a little fruit fly. I'll just speak for women for a second. And this is not specific to women, but I work with women often. If you think about diet culture is the epitome of don't trust yourself. Because diet culture says from day one, you don't know how to feed yourself. Somebody else knows better how to feed you. And also ingrained in that is this idea that you need to control, manipulate, change your body, right? So you shouldn't trust your body as it is. You should change it. And then you should use diets and fads to change and fix and manipulate the body you're in so that it can be appealing to other people. So from day one, women are culturally ingrained in this idea that you can't trust yourself. It's kind of robbed from us in so many ways. So that's one way that we have to learn how to walk back into self-trust. Because from day one, we've been taught you can't trust the body you're in. Yeah. Another huge one is purity culture, right? Purity culture has been a massive...
If you're new here, we are both... we were raised in the evangelical church, and we were raised in the purity culture movement. And so there's other videos that you can watch. Yeah,
we've definitely unpacked some stuff around purity culture. But again, purity culture says your body is bad and your body is sinful or your body is dangerous. And so you develop this detached view from your whole self. This part of me is bad, this part of me is good. And so why would you trust something if it's bad, right? Why would you trust something if it's not a good thing? So purity culture, the messaging of it really inherently teaches us we can't trust ourselves. And
then, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why we were taught to believe that we can't trust ourselves. And I think therapy, introspective work, any sort of work that you do that allows you to go inward is going to help you uncover the reasons why. You know, like some of us grew up and we were told that our feelings don't matter. We were told that we're too much. We were told all these stories that are untrue about who we are, right? That's produced this level of self-hatred or self-bitterness or just self-loathing, whatever it might be. And why would I ever trust myself if I hate myself, right? So we forfeit our self-trust because we haven't really learned how to accept all of us. And so there are just these narratives.
To unpack that a little bit further, why would we trust something if we hate it, right? We got to think about like being in relationship with something. If you're in a relationship with me and you're mean to me all the time, I'm not going to trust you. So if I'm in a relationship with myself and I'm mean to me all the time, why would I trust that? So a lot of us are in relationship with self that's quite at odds and not good. And so we have to learn how to be kind, loving towards ourselves before we can ever practice self-trust.
So self-trust, and I often have realized that I thought the journey that I was on is getting from point A to point B. But the journey was actually, or what I learned and what I realized on the other side of whatever journey that I was on at the time is that, this wasn't a journey of, getting that keynote speech. I'm a keynote speaker. But this wasn't a journey of getting that big keynote speech. This was a journey of learning how to trust myself in this whole process, right? And then I'm like, that's the journey that I was on. And on the other side of it, there has been this deeper self-trust that I have cultivated that stays with me, right? And that self-trust is invaluable. It produces confidence. It produces a higher self-esteem. It produces all these things because I trust myself. Even though if I don't necessarily know how it's going to unfold, or if I don't have the answers, or if I don't know where to go, I know that I have what it takes to withstand the storm, right? Because
there's a sense of building a rapport with yourself. Or
you're building a history with yourself. Third, that kind of takes us into, why is there a direct connection, or what does healing your emotional trauma have to do with building self-trust? And I guess we kind of touched on it right there, but healing, emotional any trauma, it disconnects us from us, right? We're living from our pain body, right? We're not living from our truth. We're not living from our real self.
Yeah.
Right? And that disconnection, when it disconnects us from us, right, there is no self-trust available there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the body keeps the score. So our bodies remember trauma. They carry it in our fascia. And so when we have trauma, when we come into an emotional experience, we're living from that history place. We're living from that place back when the trauma happened, right? And so we're experiencing the same emotion, etc., from that place. So when we want to trust ourselves, it's really important to go in and heal trauma, because trauma says you can't trust yourself, right? Trauma is so scarring, and then generally after trauma we become very self-protective, and those self-protective mechanisms, they keep us from self-trust because they're self-protective, right? So they're keeping us from actually operating from the present, grounded here and now.
Well, in addition to that, I think where we're going, we're kind of like talking ourselves in circles, but when we are operating from the pain or the unhealed trauma, right, what's happening is usually it results in actions that are self-protective, right? They're actions that shut our heart down. They're actions that are destructive sometimes. And those small actions that we make from our deep wounding or our pain are actually also acts of self-betrayal.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that a little bit deeper, just like taking it deeper, but this is important. When we are operating from a behavior that looks like self-destruction, right? So an eating disorder, let's take an eating disorder for example. When I'm operating in that, generally it is a self-protective mechanism of some kind, because I learned at an early age that emotion is too complicated and too much, and I don't know how to feel it. So instead I'll use food to help me deal with the pain, right? So we look at the behavior, the eating disorder, and we become mad at ourselves about the coping mechanism, right? We become angry at ourselves about the coping mechanism. So we end up in this cycle of being mean, unkind, angry with ourselves about a behavior, when in actuality the problem is way back here and it's around the emotion. But this cycle of being mean keeps us in the cycle of not trusting ourselves. Kind of what we said earlier, why would I trust something if I'm mean to it? So it's really important to go back and heal the trauma that caused the coping mechanism in the first place, so we don't end up in this cycle of, I did this behavior, I'm calling it self-sabotage, and now I'm beating myself up for it.
Yes. I hope this makes sense.
I think it's making sense.
Yeah. Last and not least, what are ways that you can begin to practice self-trust in your life? I know for me, we've touched on it a few times here, but we have to learn how to befriend ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, in order to trust ourselves, we have to learn how to accept ourselves, and we're not going to accept ourselves if we spend all of our time mad at ourselves.
Yeah. We somehow are so convinced that by being mean or being unkind, we're going to change.
Safe.
Yeah, but we really think like, oh, that will create change.
Right.
But
and
what
I
we
get
know,
that. I get it.
Yeah, but what we know is compassion.
Yeah. And so I think
leads to change.
We've stressed just how important self-trust is on your journey. No matter what you want in life, it's not happening without radical self-trust, and that starts with radical self-compassion, which leads to self-acceptance, which births a self-trust. So if I could say, if you can start anywhere, start with just being intentionally kind to yourself, especially in the moments where you mess up or make a mistake, or you are triggered by something and you respond in a maybe in a more unhealthy way. How you respond to yourself determines everything when it comes to the self-compassion and the self-trust.
Also, a really good note to think about inner child work, because when we view the little kid version of ourselves in a moment, it's way easier to be kind, right? Like, oh, you're having such a hard time. Let me be soft with you. I think another way to practice self-trust starts in little things. So I use the example of food a lot. We've been taught, again, that we can't trust ourselves with food, that somebody else knows better. So part of my journey of learning self-trust was really learning how to trust myself with how I could nourish myself. So coming into an eating experience and saying, body, what would feel really good? What would feel nourishing to you in this moment? And kind of tuning the ear to listen to the body again. And
which takes time.
Oh, it takes so much time. I'm still learning. We're all still learning. This is all a journey. This is never an arrival situation. I've never arrived at self-trust. But practicing like, oh, that's what makes me feel really nourished. Oh, my body really wanted to move today. I honored that. I moved in some way. Actually, I didn't want to force myself to go for that run. I listened to that. And kind of tuning in and listening to the cues of the body, because the body is so crucial. Being in tune with our body is so crucial when it comes to self-trust. It's where our intuition lives. It's always guiding us. And so I think one small way to start practicing is learning how to really listen to the cues of the body.
That's big.
Mm-hmm.
That's really big.
And it can start with food, and it can start with movement, and it can start with
because
rest.
Sometimes we do things unconsciously, or we do things because we think it's the thing we're supposed to do, even though our body is revolting. And that's why I think we have videos up here on like practicing self-awareness and learning how to listen to your body. Learning how to listen to your body is so incredibly important when it comes to self-trust.
Massive.
Because if your body, say you got an opportunity, but you just don't have peace with it, right? But that opportunity looks good because it has more finances attached to it, right? You're making more money with this opportunity, but deep down, you just know that it's not right for you. Something just doesn't feel right. You have a choice, right? You can do the thing that makes most logical sense. Of course, I'll take that job. It's more money. 9 times out of 10, people will say that's where you need to go. But then there's also this other way on the journey of self-trust is really honoring how you feel. You know what? I know that it doesn't make logical sense to take that, or I know that it makes logical sense to take that job, but deep down, it just doesn't feel right. And I'm going to honor how I feel and honor what my body is saying and say no to it, right? And then you let go of the results of what happens afterwards. The truth is, and the success of that story is that you honored your body. You are teaching yourself that you can trust yourself. And I promise you, the opportunities that God is trying to get into your life, the opportunities that are coming for you are going to require a deep level of self-trust. So maybe you think for a second you missed out on something, but you gained so much more when you learned how to trust yourself. And it's that level and that measure of self-trust that needs to be exemplified in your life to get where you're going. It's like I was preaching.
You really were. I was like, whoa, preaching. Here we go.
There you have it. If this video
total preaching.
Yeah, if this video resonates with you at all, we would be so pumped if you subscribed, liked, if you felt inclined,
subscribe to us,
a review. And also, last but not least, if this video would just make an impact on somebody, or if somebody's in a journey of learning how to trust themselves,
send it along.
Please, just send it along. That would be so amazing. And we will be back tomorrow with another video.